Stuff like good. You're like, remember you're good at that?
All right, so I'm going to start talking to you about I talked about the Rudra Yoga description. You have to understand the way both I and all of us are able to do what we do is because of there's a higher mathematical formula. It's esoteric mathematics. It's so mathematics. It's not like mathematics. It is mathematics. In Tibetan Tantra, they have an idea of a language that is written in light. And in my initiator, who came from the deserts of the Middle East, they have the same idea of a language that's written in light. The Tibetans call it Dakini language. In this work, you're trained to understand and read the languages of light. It's part of yoga. What does yoga mean? You know?
Union.
It does. Did you know that before you came here?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, you know stuff. That might be the most important thing to know. Think of everything you don't know.
I know. I can't fathom how much I don't know.
I know. But if that was the most important thing to know, think how lucky you are. The most important organ in a human body is what?
Brain.
Heart.
Stomach.
The roots.
Brain, that's a good answer. Heart, somebody said, that's a good answer. What was anybody else say?
The roots.
The lungs.
The root's not an organ.
The skin?
The stomach.
That was a little bit of a trick. I knew somebody would fall into that trap.
The lungs.
The what? Lungs? Good answer.
Sex organ.
Spectrum?
Sex organs.
That's a good answer. I think, oh, great. Nobody is sexier than Freddie Mercury. Woo!
The stomach.
You know, he's a good example of like the Christ principle. How, you know, in death, he becomes his full self in life. Nobody's got it yet. There's a real answer to this.
Skin.
There's a real why to it.
What's the question? What's the most important organ?
Anybody want to keep guessing? Or?
The
No,
mouth.
That's a good guess. Mouth.
Say the
Mouth is
brain.
a good guess. Yeah, he started the brain.
I said the
That would be
stomach.
illogical. What?
Stomach.
Stomach? Yeah, the lower brain, the big brain.
The appendix.
It's a good answer, isn't it?
It's not it.
Liver, intestine.
Is it the skin?
That's a good answer too, because it's the most, the biggest organ of the body.
What about the liver?
What?
The liver?
That's a good answer too, because it
Epiglottis.
filters everything, right? What?
Epiglottis.
The bladder?
Epiglottis.
What is it?
It's that little thing that hangs down the back of your throat.
Is that little thing dangly?
No.
It's not it, is it? Oh, the tonsils.
The
You could
tonsils
get
got
those
taken out.
removed and
A
still
lot
be
of people.
fine.
So it couldn't be that.
The tongue.
The
Gallbladder.
parent
Yes, who said that? The
brain.
tongue.
Oh.
It's true.
The
You can't
tongue
live without
is
your
the
tongue.
most important organ in the body
Why?
for a human being. Well, first of all, you can't be human if you can't speak language. So just start there. And then if you want to go into the esoteric ideas, there's all this very popular idea that in the beginning was the word. And that's a frequency, and it arises as a thought. Feeling gets behind it, and then it gets into action, and then creation. And then there's this idea that the human being is in the image of the Creator. Okay, well, so what happens? Human beings are creators. That's all we are. We're creators. And it all starts with the tongue. Also, just as another little point of reference, the tongue is probably the most sensitive organ of the body. Certainly the sex organs are sensitive. Certainly the eyeballs are sensitive. Feet are sensitive. Nothing like the tongue. And also in terms of the amount of nerves. Because it's the movement of the tongue is like the creator of the functioning of the brain. I mean, the brain's got to think of something, right? The brain's got to think.
Yeah.
Right? The heart's got to feel. And this moving part's got to, yeah, let's move it on. And the feet's got to set it in action. But it originates in the tongue. And that's why, if you're really interested in meditation and success in meditation, which I think is a horrible word because it essentially in Latin means to think. And actually, it's the opposite of that. So if you're really interested in being quiet, and if you're really interested in exploring the totality of what quiet can be, if you're really interested in getting to the place where you live in a state where all you hear is space singing, and every other thing that you hear is happening like notes on a clef within the sheet of space singing. If that's what you're interested in, controlling and being aware in your tongue and in the container of the tongue is the most important thing. And then, first I taught you how to feel. This is level 4, by the way. We went to 2.0. Now we're going to, well, that was 2.0 was 3, right?
Yeah.
It was a creation principle. That's Rudra and Yogi Bhajan. And is this in
Moss is level 3.
and what was it?
Moss is level 3.
Moss? Yeah, Moss 2.0. You know, I'm going to just leave all of that in one spot because that's my experience. Kundalini Yoga, Yogi Bhajan, everything contributes. I'm not just saying, I'm not being exclusively here. I'm not talking about this is the only way, it's the right way, none of that crap. But if you take a foundation of Kundalini Yoga, Yogi Bhajan, Rudy's work, and you make it a pyramid and put Master's work here, and know that all of this happens so this could happen, it's really all one thing happening, that's really the truth of it. So it's 2, I agree. So this would be, well, what about 1, 2, 3, 1, what about that?
That's 3.
Yeah. That was 3 today, anyway. Okay, well, anyway, just, obviously none of that matters. So, think about it. You learned how to feel your root, and you learned how to feel the magnetic core of the earth, and you learned how to feel them vibrating together. Now, I say you learned this because I kept asking you, are you feeling it? Is there anybody here that hadn't felt any of this yet? Nothing. Do you know him?
I know.
Who knows him?
I do.
Okay, will you take him in the back room back there, so you can still hear, maybe over by the green door, and just, let me show you what to do. I mean, you probably know what to do, but
Yeah, Jim knows
a little going on here, right? And then kind of opening up a little bit. And the root block, everything. Okay. He's gonna take it. So, anybody else here need a little help? Everybody can somewhat feel some of this? All right, so we got that going on. Then I taught you how to make your arms into big pumps. seal. And allow those fresh energies to spread out into everything, including the most subtle part of yourself, till they combine with space. Now, I take a few times. Want to practice, or you just want to listen? Okay, everybody get it? This is like the update, because I can't build the next layer unless I do a review. So you see the whole picture of Rudra Yoga. All of this together is what I call Rudra Yoga. Ready? All right, so first you're going to feel your root, not your sweet spot, your root. You remember the sweet spot? Where is it?
It's in between your. So for a woman, it's in between the vagina and the butthole.
Yeah,
The
but between
perineum.
your vagina and your asshole?
Yep. It's the perineum. Right? That's right.
Wow. Me, it's between the back of my ball sack and my butthole. Oh, I hope it doesn't smell. It's just amazing how much tension people have around sex and bodies and sex organs. It's insane.
I cleared my naked problem. I went to the thing.
You ready? Should we do it?
Let's do
Get
it.
a net kicker thinking right now?
We're recording, you know.
Could you do it?
Yes.
Okay, that's good enough for me. Because I know you always tell the truth. That's one thing about you. You always tell the truth. You're tuned into what you feel you're ready for.
Okay,
Why won't you stay?
are you recording, Megan? Are you recording?
Whatever we're doing in the house, just place.
Yep. What's up?
It's
When it's like
it's
that,
all
so
the time in general, but it's what we do. They're like, they just blow the walls. Okay. So feel that and see if you can feel drawing energy with your hands. See if you can feel the seal. None of you want to do this, is fine. You don't have to. It's important for me to get this out. It's not important with anybody ever does it. When you're sealing here, you're feeling those energies that you drew up spread throughout you, and you're feeling a union with space, where the walls just come down. And you keep doing that. And you hold the breath and let those energies penetrate everything, so they can gain anything that's not that is refreshed, it goes back into the earth. And you keep doing that until you feel like you're doing it and nothing's happening. And you feel really spacious and clear. Right. So compared to the Rudy's breath practice and the 2 times a day, that still can be a useful thing to do. But this has a potency of times 100. And it has to do with a lot of things. It's not just a practice. It has nothing to do with Moss, and one of the things we love about him is he's always says it. It doesn't have anything to do with me. I was just a regular guy going down the street. I had a couple of near-death experiences, went through a dark night of soul, and all of a sudden the notice is coming through, and I keep getting messages about what to do.
Yeah.
It's not about me. This is only so it can go out, and all of you develop your full potential. All of your superpowers. So we don't have to go to movies and watch superpowers, because we are. We are the champions.
Yes.
All right. So the next is the tongue. But before we get to the tongue, we're going to go into Mursshud. That would be 5. He's not there anymore. I'll just talk to that. 5, right? Yeah, hey, the skin's easier. So you're moving, and you're moved your focus of reference to your sweet spot, or in Tao Yoga they call it your sacred spot. And you're feeling the whole earth moving with you, and you're starting to feel really juicy down there. You could say, this is like if somebody gets mad and says, well, fuck the earth. You know, they get tired of all the climate change bullshit, and they say, well, fuck the earth. Well, okay, this is how you do it. And this is safe sex too.
This is very safe.
And when we're all fucking there together, you know, hashtag me too.
You're getting funnier.
We're fighting. That's all fear-based shit. We just rove around together. So that's what raising the archetypes is all about. You see, that's what we do.
We just say the song goes here, and then after
We take all this fear-based stuff and the way words have all these tensions associated with them and so much separation and division, and you did this and you did this and I need that and you have that.
so
And we liberated all of that so it becomes pure, like whatever it is.
release practice going.
And so you like that the next important part to remember is the feet, the pumping of the feet. See, I'm not really even moving my feet, but I'm pumping my feet. Once you start getting this, it's hard to sit down anymore. And then you just add things in when you feel like it. Basically, you're dancing with your love feeling with Earth, and the cosmos is all around. So that's Mursshud. Now we're doing Mursshud. But remember, whether you do Rudy's work, or whether you're doing what we call 2.0, or Moss, what Moss is bringing through, or whether you're doing this, it's important that the mouth be open, but the lips be touching. The mouth be open, but the lips be touching. Like, and then feel how the breath comes through the nose so much more powerfully when you're doing that, as long as your head's like more like this. It's dramatic. And then, the number one most important thing, the tongue, relaxed and floating in the center of the mouth, in the air of the mouth, in the jaw, tension free. So sometimes it's a good idea to do jaw exercises. Sometimes it's a good idea to do tongue exercises. No, it's really good. You do a little bit of that, and then you go back into that meditation. And I'm just gonna call it. Go back into the quiet thing. Let's call it the quiet thing. You go back into the quiet thing, and ooh, it's more powerful. And there's another thing you can do with the tongue and the mouth when you're doing this, with your mouth open, your lips touching, your neck straight enough to where the line of energy and the breath flows freely. There's another thing you can do, you can remember a serpent's tongue. And you can allow the tongue to move a little bit, like a serpent's tongue in the mouth. Okay. I didn't give that part out yesterday because it wasn't here yet. But some things happened overnight, and there it was. I think that's a wrap on level 4 or 5 or whatever it was. 5. So now we're going to go to the main point about all of this. I'm just going to say something.
There was a big, that was the big.
You doing business here?
I'm trying to get this list
She's making it up.
organized, but let's keep going. I can review
do you have moth? Yeah, I put it over here. That's why
We're just doing it, right? We're not waiting for them to finish.
Yeah.
We're waiting in fullness. We're just doing it. That's the beautiful thing about Mursshud. See, Tanya came in. We had two choices. We were saying, Tanya, would you quit fucking up and ruining the space and breaking the energy? You're just such a bitch. Or we could have said, let's allow that to happen. Let's make a space for that. Let's get deeper into, by making a space for something new, without judging it or having an idea of it, we go deeper into the feeling. That's connectedness. That's what we saw there. That was over 1 million people. That was connectedness. This is connectedness. When I do this, that's connectedness. When we all, because it's not my finger. The finger is just a prop. That's connectedness. So we are fulfilling the base, the most core, essential desire or need of a human being, which is connectedness. And that's all we're ever looking for. We're just looking for connectedness. All we're ever looking for. If you're a girl and you're straight, you're looking for guys. If you're a guy and you're straight, you're looking for girls. If you're a girl and you're well, that means lesbian friends, and I just thought that seems unfortunate.
A girl that likes girls?
If you're the girl and you feel the companionship of ones like you, you're looking for connectedness. And in every version you can think of, you're just looking for connectedness. If you're a woman and you're wanting to have children, or you're a man and you're wanting to have children with someone, you're looking for connectedness. If you're looking for a partner in life, if you're looking for marriage, which means what? Marriage doesn't mean anything. You're looking for connectedness. We all know about the patriarchy and the evils of the patriarchy, and then there was a history of the matriarchy before that, like really a long time ago. That if you think about the bloodletting of the patriarchy, you don't want to do bloodletting. It could be much bigger in the feminine side than the male side every time. So, connectedness. So the most important of all the archetypes, we want to discover love in a pure form. Like, I love the work that people are doing. There's like the Me Too movement is an idea that can be happening in anger, or it can be happening in life. I have friends that are working with people to get together in the ways that would most stimulate sexual desire, and working with them to open up to whatever ever they or anybody wants to do, and learning how to negotiate consent. Consent. You ever want to meet Roxanne? I'd love to introduce you to her. She's like a pioneer. Do you know Kamala or Roxanne?
Oh, no.
I'd like to introduce you.
Of course.
Because this is a field in which you have a strong energy. And it is a field of mastery, and a field of service, and a field of awakening. So if you get just a bunch of crazy, horny people around, and you get them all naked and get them all experimental too, and then you say, well, you can do whatever you want to do, except you must negotiate consent. So the simplest idea about consent in this situation is kind of, that sounds like it. I'd like to do that, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure is a no. See, I'm not sure is a no. Just think about all the problems that would have been solved around most of rapes. Most rapes are like come out of people you know. People that know each other. Think about all the problems that be solved if I'm not sure was a no. And that was it. That was like 80% probably. Sometimes rape is just regret. Sometimes a man or a woman will do something they regret and then they just feel raped. It's because they can't take responsibility, so they have to externalize it. Sometimes it's different than that. It can be any way, but it's all about consent. So think about what consent really means. Consent really means, do you consent yourself? Do you consent yourself? This is where you're strong. You're very good with consent. That's like a way of saying what you feel ready for, what you don't feel ready. You have a strength about that you need. That's consent with yourself. Everything happens with yourself. And then if you're going to engage with people out there, they have to understand if they're going to dance with you, they have to feel you and respect you as you are. And if there's a little bit of uncertainty, let's just take that as a not now. Whatever it is, sexual or anything. But human beings are such sexual people. There's a lot of that goes on. All right, so back to connectedness. Yoga means union. Marriage means union. Becoming God-realized, becoming self-realized, becoming one with the force. You know, the spiritual ideal, by whatever name it comes, that means union. So all we want is union. Okay, as human beings, all the archetypes grow out of one archetype. All the archetypes grow out of one archetype, just like all fears grow out of one fear. The one fear is our mortality. And so way after we stop thinking about that, because we filter it out in every way we can, so we have to think about the fact that we're just a couple of rotting things that are going to die someday. And it seems like all the stuff we do is in the end going to mean nothing because we've gone, so what's the point? You know, once we don't want to deal with that, we filter that out, and then all the fears we have, all the phobias, all the walls are around the ultimate sense of violation, which is the violation of death. Not that it's really that way, but until you've expanded out of the 1%, it's really that way. If you're in the 1% and your whole life is defined on the life of the body, it's really that way. It's a fucking bummer. You see what I'm saying? But once you're in the greater of yourself, there isn't any death. Time ceases to exist. There's not any death. That's only experienced through the five senses. And if the whole of the being is crammed into the 1%, think about the 100%, which is more and more spacious, right? Crammed into the 1%. That that's even possible is hard to imagine, but it's possible. And everybody heard the story of Aladdin and the lamp, right?
Yes.
Aladdin.
That's it. Aladdin is the spirit we are. Crammed in a beautiful lamp. I mean, brass or gold. Seal. That's what that story is about. Every fable, every fairy story was a way that Source communicated wisdom through the unconscious by allowing children to hear these stories. So what would be the core archetype out of which all archetypes in the human world arise?
Mother.
Anybody?
Having babies.
Clearly would be in that direction this year.
Mother.
I mean, that's what people,
Marriage?
it's marriage.
Yeah.
It's hard to even say the word because it's so soiled, right? It's so fucking soiled. It is. It's just, it became an abomination.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, in Indian astrology, they have an idea of 26,000-year cycles. And then they have an idea of greater cycles, those being one unit in greater cycles, so 26,000 years. They have an idea of dark ages, and, well, let's see, it's iron, copper, something, and then gold.
There's a stone in there.
What?
There's a stone in there.
A stone?
Stone and then I think copper and iron. Right?
Yeah, but you can, in other words, levels of denseness, right? So we're in the dark age. And yet, in the world we live in, this amazing world of ease and technology and, you know, connectedness through social media and all that, and a lot more wealth than has ever been in the world. And hard to believe it. It seems like there's more violence in the world than ever. But it's only, there isn't. It's much less than ever. But because of social media, the 24-hour news cycle and all of that, it just seems like war. So we're in a dark age. And so therefore, the core archetype of marriage and all the other archetypes, love, family, whatever, all these ideals. Think about, like, is there anybody in here that when they were a child, they had a fantasy of the perfect life with the perfect partner?
Yeah, I did.
And, you know, marriage, maybe a wedding. Right. And see, that's normal.
I thought I was
Because that's true. And then you get out in the world as it is, and it's the fucking abomination of that. It's the opposite. And then it's like all of your innocence is just shattered in this darkness. So we're here to resurrect that. So I'm going to offer you, all of you, two things. One is, if you want to participate in training around 1, I will meet once a week with people who want to do that. The other thing I'd like to offer you is anybody who would like to join me and make a core commitment to resurrecting the archetype of marriage from its broken, darkened, and low vibrational state back into the city of light so it can reform and descend back to the earth. If you want to join me in that, I'll give you something. That's it. And now the thing where I have stuff to pass out. I know where it is. Just want to know, is anybody who doesn't want it or does want it?
I'm interested to know more about
What?
I'm interested to know more about what you have to say about resurrecting marriage.
Yes.
See, unfortunately, think about this. Unfortunately, this is Rudra Yoga. Rudra Yoga is a primitive and unadorned
Path to perfection.
path to perfection. It has,
One idea.
Exercise.
One idea. And
see, I already said it. There's nothing else to say. If you need blah, 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 it's like saying, I don't know if I'm ready for that. You either feel it, or you say, that sounds interesting, but I'm not sure. See, that's consent. See what I mean? Consent is very important because there's so much violation around sexual abuse. And I think between 40 and 60%, depending on how they count, of children, mainly girls, have been sexually abused when they were prepubescent. And if it's bad in this culture, go to some Islamic culture. It's not only bad there, it's promoted. It's in the book. It's in the cultures. So, look, that's why it's a really clear and juicy area to talk about consent. Because people do have sexual feelings. People do have longings to connect with other persons sexually. It doesn't have to do with, like, hide the cucumber right away, but it's just that whole feeling. I grew up in redneck areas. We have a lot of vivid descriptions of things down there in the bayou. Doesn't have to be that, but it's just, and think about all the certainty that comes with a new connection, and what should I do? And you have all these feelings, and you aren't perfectly trained, and you kind of don't know where you are. But think of what if you just had a reference around one idea. See, this is why Rudra Yoga is good. There's no blah, blah, blah to it. It's just either you get it or you don't. But if you have an idea of consent, all I require of anybody is consent, because I require that of myself. So therefore, if I'm not sure, if the feelings I have are just too much for me not to be sure, that means no. It means no to me, but it also means no to you. Now think about it, the whole sexual arena, how meaningful that is. But can a 9-year-old handle that, do that? Almost impossible.
Yeah.
Like I'm just thinking a number of prepubescent girls I know who were sexually abused. Children can't do anything about it. The only way we can do something about it is to resurrect the archetypes from their broken, darkened, and low vibrational state, so they can ascend to the city of light, and that light can shine down and purify the earth as the city of light descends and touches the ground. That was put into me as a seed by a person who took me on. So from one end of the telescope, he put that seed in me, and it lives in me, and I have the vision, I have the power, I have the understanding, I have everything, at least for myself. But if you look at it another way, I was a candle, and somebody with a match saw my candle and came in and lit it. It's just two ends of the telescope. And it's all true. The mind looks at it one way and the other way, and then once the mind gets quiet, we're in truth. Because truth isn't an idea. It's a knowing. It's a feeling. It's a unity. Okay, so anybody want to join me in this crusade?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to start with my first. You said yes. You're going to start with my first yes. I'm going to give you this. And I have a really good friend, Rudra, who's written this beautiful book. It's one of my closest of all people in this work. And I'm going to give you this. She wrote this, and she'll sign it for you. She lives in Encinitas area if you want.
Are there any, do you know any of the laws about the
It's just her story. This is her story.
if we were to turn
Persian girl, came from a traditional family.
and offer
Beautiful story.
I'm so tired of the archetype of marriage. Like it's
Right. It needs to be resurrected.
Yes.
Everybody wants union. What does marriage mean?
Union.
If it means anything else, it's not fucking marriage! And yet, we still want it. Nobody wants to live in that confusion. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the power back and resurrect it. Are we going to do that?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Yes.
There you go. What's what's the first words there on top?
The clear light.
This is the clear light tantra.
Yeah.
You read books? I don't know if you read. Do you read?
It's not bad.
Well, you want a book, or you happy with that? I only have 4.
Yeah, I can get one later.
Yeah, I have a copy of
At
it.
home.
You
Me
want,
too.
You want a book? Do you read? Well, it's good for her to have a book. I know it is.
Yeah, give it to
You want one?
I want to join.
You what?
Me too.
Me too!
She consent.
Hashtag
Hashtag me
me
too.
too.
Consent.